Hello.
Hello. Yes,
Can you hear
Can
me?
you hear me? Loud and clear.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
how are you? How's life?
Okay, okay.
So, what were we talking about last time? Something about, I forget exactly. It's-
Well, ODD, you
oh, yeah,
found
yeah.
statistics associated ODD with AS, whatever it is, T or D. And a little bit of your childhood stuff with your mother needing to keep you under control somehow.
Right. But I've always argued, I'm not trying to convince you, but I'm just trying to put something out there that, you know, having autism or not having autism has nothing to do with the household. So you can come from a nut house and have autism, come from a nut house and not have autism. You could, you can be from a loving home and have autism or not. So it's almost like we talk about nature and nurture. They're not mutually exclusive. It could be a little bit of both. And there was something I found online. I'm not trying to convince you of anything, but there's something I read online. This is not, the internet. There's all kinds of stuff out there. This is someone else's opinion about autism. I just wanted to read it to you because I came across it. There's someone out there on the internet talking about autism. Because many times you've said to me, I'll say, why do these people, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. You can say I'm abrasive. Why the nigger bitch want to run me over? Why the dude strangle me in the liquor store? Even the more minor things. Why do these people want to shove me or push me? It's like, or break my jaw, like openly in front of the boss? Like, what leads to it? And I've told you, these people take an instant dislike. And I kind of feel like you're always trying to find some reason. You must have done X, therefore Y. And I believe what you struggle with, and it's just my opinion, because this is how it's felt all my life. I'm going to read what this person wrote, because I thought this was just, very good. Someone asked a question about, why do people instantly take a dislike to me? I have autism, blah, blah, blah. And someone wrote, and again, you don't have to agree with this, but you're always saying, I got nothing. Here's what someone wrote, and I thought this is pretty good. I agree with what's being said here. This person on the internet wrote, the reason people dislike you, it's linked to autism. Essentially, people instantly and instinctively spot that you're not, quote unquote, normal through subtle body language cues. Emphasis on subtle. For example, micro eye movements, micro variations of a facial expression, posture, gait, voice, the whole combination, the whole equation. When a non-autistic person, sees the autistic person that they don't know, their brain will instantly process these dozens of subtle body language cues, and it's not a conscious reasoning. It happens in a split second. So these quote unquote normal people instantly pick up on something that's different about you, even if they themselves don't know why, and their brains conclude this person is not like me, therefore not normal. I don't like them. So and it says here, it goes on, because I really like the way this to me is, you don't have to agree, but this sounds like a lot of experiences I've had where they don't consciously
To the point of
themselves.
wanting to murder you,
What's that?
to the point of wanting to commit homicide.
Let's continue. They don't consciously themselves know why they dislike us. All they know is that they felt an instant dislike out of nowhere for us, so they'll try to explain it by saying we give off a bad vibe, or they'll later retroactively justify it by using any specific behavior. Like the boss who never liked me at that auto driver job, where he was like, oh, you stopped for an iced tea, that's why. I could tell the dislike from when I first met him, not because of anything I did. And so they'll try to, so they'll just say, they'll try to retroactively go back and say, well, because we all have our flaws. Oh, he did this, that's why I don't like him. When in fact, but the truth is, here's what I really like this person on the internet. But the truth is that they didn't like you even before you started, info dumping, explaining who you were. They disliked you even before hearing you talk or knowing your name or knowing anything about you. Just seeing you was literally enough for them to dislike you. Even those of us who mask, even those autists who mask, can't fully escape it. Masking can hide the more obvious autism signs, but the person is actually aware of, but you can't control all the micro nuances that just come with a package of being autistic. And no, not everyone is homicidal, but hey, you cross enough hostile types. And, I've always told you about the snowball effect. Well, a couple things. Let's say someone is homicidal, but they have enough wherewithal to know I just can't go after anybody. They might know no one likes him. I don't like him. He's different. We all feel he's different. And they start bad mouthing like a snowball. They add, well, he did this, he did that. That's why we hate him. When in fact they've hated to begin with. And someone who wants to be the instigator, that like the antibody, the killer cell, who's there to get rid of the virus. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Because one thing they all decide that we don't like him, and I've talked about secondhand hatred, where some like a boss or a manager doesn't like me, and the others know that the leader doesn't like him, so we can hate him too. Yeah. And of course, and then all it takes is one nut job, part of this group, who feels empowered by the group. So yes, to the point of homicidal. I'm just because you've always said to me, I said to you, Doctor, what takes it to this level, this extreme? Well, I got nothing. Well, you don't experience these things. And again, not everybody hates me. If you and I worked together, maybe we'd get along. But people wouldn't hate you the way they hated me. And all it takes is that one loose cannon, like the tall asshole behemoth who wanted to break my jaw, boldly in front of the boss. No fear of saying this in front of the boss. I mean, I guess they feel empowered because they know, they pick up on the social dynamic and they know that I'm on the outs. So I just thought that was very well written. It's like when this person on the internet said that even before you opened your mouth, they already realized they didn't like you and they retroactively go back and, apply, well, he did this, he did that. That's why I don't like him. He said that. He was kind of sarcastic. That's when it's all just retroactive excuses for why they don't like someone. Because that seems to match my life to a T, where punishments don't fit crimes. Yeah. I know you don't believe I have autism, but I believe you might be right about the ODD, but that might be in response to having autism, having been treated this way all my life. I think, I developed that ODD. That's just just want to share that. I mean, do you have any thoughts on what I just read to you?
Yeah, what I was thinking is, it sounds like it's a doable study, although it would take a lot of work first you'd have to have a panel of, I guess, experts watch videos of people, experts who are experts in autism, to pick up, let's just say there's a profile of certain kinds of nonverbal cues, so that, they would pick up people high in autism, high functioning autism, because if you're autistic, you're high functioning autism. So you'd have to pick out people who are high functioning, then you'd have to get, compare them to control group. And then you'd have to get, the subjects watching these videos and seeing if there's a discernible bias towards, these nonverbal cues as being, how would they rate them, as off-putting or as, benign or, neutral. Anyway, and then you might get some sense of whether what you're talking about makes sense, whether it's empirically validated. So it's possible. It would be a tough study because it'd be really hard to find the enough samples. No, not actually. Maybe not. If you could get, maybe this has already been studied in terms of finding these, as you call, like eye movements, or how they their eyebrows move, or very subtle.
Well, first of all, I want to say, you said I have high functioning. Well, yeah, obviously, if it were obvious I was autistic, there'd be no need for a study. Everyone would look at me and say, okay, he's autistic. I think what this person was writing about is, for those of us where it's not obvious, the normal types are picking up that something's off. They can't say, okay, that guy's babbling to himself in the corner, sniffing crayons or something. It's not something blatantly obvious. That's the whole point of the quote, why the high functioning suffer. And the reason I suspected autism long before I got a diagnosis, long before I ever met you, is because I would read some of these posts by people with autism and I would say, gee, I could have written that myself. That's exactly like what I've experienced. That's what led me to believe I was autistic, because that sounds like something I could have read, like these microaggressions. Like, what did I do wrong? So many times in my life, I told you last time about teachers would get really nasty with me over something minor, but they'd get, they'd give a slap on the wrist to the cool kid in the class. And I would wonder to myself, what did I do wrong? Maybe I thought it was like, if I do X, it'll be Y. Maybe I should try doing Z and I'll get B, whatever. And it just seemed like it didn't really matter. So I think there was that pre-existing prejudgment there. That's why when I read a statement like that, I'm not saying that's the conclusive answer, but it makes sense to me. It resonates with my life experience. And, autism wasn't really even, fully described until the 1940s and didn't become, in diagnostic manuals for 50 years later. Even then it was a slow go. And I know for most of your career, autism simply meant what we think of as the classical autistic type. So I think we're a long way away before anyone does any studies. So all I have is the internet, basically. That's how it feels. But I do suspect autism for sure. I agree. I know you criticized the neuropsych for giving me a laundry list, but then you've given me a laundry list of other diagnoses. So I guess I have a lot of problems. I think like the snowball, things build upon each other. And
Well, I'll tell you, if you want to get a PhD in psychology, you could probably.
First of all,
you have your dissertation ready. You just have to take the courses.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm getting too old to get breaking the field. Don't you think?
I'd stop with the age thing.
Okay.
Stop with the age thing.
Be honest.
Use that as an excuse. Here we go again.
Okay. Would it help if I were Jewish? I can pretend. Would that help?
Why? What would Jewish do? I don't understand.
Doesn't give you a bigger in the field?
Oh, stop.
No, I'm just asking. I don't know. I thought, would it help if I were tribe? You can be honest.
Stop.
This is my uncle, and he's going to get me in. Yeah, okay. No, but no,
Yeah.
I told you one time I heard you might disagree with this. I was listening to some radio program years ago, and there was some lady on. She was a therapist or psychiatrist or psychologist or something, and the host asked her a question like, "What brought you into this? Like, what got you into this line of work?" And she said, "This is just her opinion." She goes, "The reason I became a psychologist, and I feel this is true for all of us, we all have something wrong with us to begin with, so we start studying psychology for our own selves, which leads us down that path." And I don't know. I'm not going to ask you personally if that applies to you, but she seemed to say, not just me, but everyone I know in the field, basically, without realizing it or not, we all got into this because we had our own problems that drew us to the subject, and then we sort of fell into it. But so maybe what you're saying there, all the problems I have will lead me to a psychology degree. You never know. But I'm not going to. Don't worry. I want to ask you why you got into it, unless you want to answer.
Good.
Unless you want to answer. If you don't, you don't have to. See, because that wasn't out of that.
I was a geography major.
Ah, yes.
I think I told you that.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, you were a geography, and I was surprised because you didn't know this area. Then all of a sudden you did, and I asked you, what brings you down here? And you asked it like that. You acted like that question was so top secret. How dare I ask you? And I'm like, well, Mr. Geography major, okay, but yes. But what
does geography major have to do with knowing or not knowing an area? It's just because you're a geography major. I mean, anyway, it was.
Well, let's not rehash. You're
rehashing geography, not American geography.
Okay, so you're studying geography. What led you to psychology?
Because I realized geography was a dead end. It was boring too.
Oh. Okay.
And psychology seemed a lot more interesting.
Okay.
I mean, you could relate to it personally, right? I mean, it's just...
Well, that's what the lady was saying, that people who get into psychology relate to it even more personally because they themselves have something wrong with them, and they're looking for therapy for themselves first, and then leads them to... I'm not applying that to you. I'm just... But
to say there's something wrong it's a very pejorative way of looking at it. It's more like, there's things that maybe they've dealt with in life, which, they're looking for answers. So, hey, it makes sense. Let's study the field that's supposed to provide the answers. So, whatever. But anyway,
possibly.
But this also your description of that like there's maybe these subtle nonverbal cues also touches on the whole field of subliminal perception, which was a huge topic in psychology. When I first started in psychology, there were a lot of studies on subliminal perception where they would use these what are they called? These little flashes of like there'd be like almost below the threshold of conscious perception to be like a flash of like a naked woman, and then you'd start give people a questionnaire, or there'd be a flash of some kind of aggressive act of some sort, like maybe somebody bleeding, and then you'd give them a questionnaire about how, or you'd show them a scene that's like a scene of conflict, and then I'm sort of making this up as I go, and then after having seen these subliminal scenes, which they weren't able to consciously pick up, you'd want to see if it created a bias in their perception of what they saw later. And, some studies seem to support it, but a lot of studies didn't support it. So then they started, then that whole area of research kind of dissipated. But
yeah, but see, I think the problem is
interesting. Yeah, no, it's. I still think it's a very interesting topic, and but I don't know I don't think people do that anymore.
Well, see, here's the problem I see that. It's kind of like during the days of drive-in movies. Allegedly, they would put popcorn or soda to give you the idea. Let me go get something to eat.
Yeah, same idea.
Right. But ultimately, with that, or if you're ever, a Clockwork Orange, if you're trying to use the same kind of therapy to desensitize someone or not make them, okay. But in either of those situations, like you were talking about the movie theater, a Clockwork Orange, another human being is trying to forcefully affect someone's subconscious.
You're trying to get past your defense mechanisms.
Right, but that's not. But there's a deliberate act on someone's part to create a subconscious reaction. With autism, it's the opposite. Nothing is deliberate. It's we can't help it, and they can't help their feelings. So the difference, unlike the popcorn or the violent scene, is that's deliberately being projected in hopes that it affects their mind. What I'm talking about is the natural human. That what
you're missing. But to me, the main point is that if subliminal perception actually acts as a motivator, whether it's intentional or it's unintentional, the idea, what you're suggesting is that you're going to give off those subliminal signals that will affect another person's response to it.
Right. What I'm saying is intentional.
It doesn't matter if it's intentional.
Well, no, it kind of does. Maybe the reason the intentional subliminal studies fell by the wayside is because it wasn't as successful intentionally, which kind of leads you to disregard, because that's what's bothering me. You're saying, well, either way, no, maybe intentional subliminal doesn't work as well as the natural subliminal, and that's what I'm saying. And if you're just dismissing it all, no, maybe the popcorn and the violent scenes didn't work as well as natural subliminal, which has more of an effect on the human mind than a deliberate attempt at subliminal.
To do a study just on that,
right? And they haven't, and people like you are dismissing it. Well, what difference does it make whether it's intentional or not?
I don't think it would make it theoretically. I don't think it should make a difference, but it's possible. What you're saying is possible. It's possible. I don't know why, but it's possible.
Well, no one's going to study it.
Subliminal. Why would it? I don't see why it would make a difference. But anyway.
Well, because you've always said to me, like, oh, if you're autistic, we'll find a way to help you so that you're not having these problems. But I'm not intentionally trying to piss these people off. I'm not intentionally trying to like show popcorn or violent scenes. If there's nothing that can be done for the unintentional subliminal, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's nothing I can do. Now, I can't help it. I can try to mask, but there's always going to be something about me that gives off that vibe that something's different about this guy. He's not normal like us. Because what I read on the internet there, that seems to perfectly summarize, the truth is they didn't like you even before you started talking to them or before they knew your name or anything. Just seeing you in that instant second, they made a split decision. They might not know why consciously, but it sticks with them. And then any little thing you do, like if they like someone and the guy's late for work, okay, you were late, try not to do it again. If they don't like you and you're late for work, you were late, that's why I hate you, one more time and you're fired. So it's like the punishment, it doesn't fit the crime. It's not the act of being late for work is the end of the world. If someone else did it that you like, that's fine. They've already had this bias against me for things out of my control, and that's how it seems. Like all these jobs I go through, every one, it's like the punishment doesn't fit the crime. You're going to tell me I'm such a horrible monster of a person? Yes, if I were going around acting like a total jerk all the time, saying, fuck you, I'm the greatest, taking a piss on the floor, I can understand why they want to fire me, but I think I have enough wherewithal of social interaction that I don't do those sorts of things. So in that scenario, yes, you could say that guy's kind of fucked up. You can't do all that stuff in public, but I don't do these things you're accusing me of. So you're trying to find what is that thing he's doing that causes these problems, and I honestly can't. What?
Well, a confounding factor is that you kind of sometimes you do things. Mm-hmm. You do things that are antagonistic. So
yes.
That's the first thing one would look at and say, well, this must be the reason. Now, okay, you're saying that might be true, but also I never did anything to the guy who strangled me, or I never really did any. I look, like you said, the punishment never fits the crime.
Right,
that's
right.
True. But
that's true.
I still don't think Social Security is going to buy your argument.
I didn't even bring that up today.
But the only way you'll find out is to try.
I didn't even bring that up today. I wasn't even going there entirely.
It doesn't matter because that's what's behind all this.
No, because even if I had Social Security, let's say I had Social Security and I still worked a job minimal, I would still want to talk with you and still try to get to the bottom of things. It's not just that. I'd still see you. You're not just a means to an end if that's what you're.
I'm not even. I didn't even think of that part.
Right.
Whether you continue to see me or not. I'm just saying in terms of your goal, which is to hopefully have the safety net.
The safety net, right?
You from yourself,
right?
But I don't know. What do you? It's like. Do you just look at it in terms of the odds of something happening? In other words, of like 10,000 people that you're going to encounter, you might get one nutcase.
Well, when the guy strangled me, that's how I said, okay, this guy is one nutcase. I'm in a public place. We seem to be having a nice conversation. Next thing I know, the guy's strangling me over a joke. But I thought, okay, lightning doesn't strike twice. That was once. Jump ahead a year and a half later, the nigger bitch tries to run me over. It's like, this is the second time someone's tried to kill me, and I barely even know these people. Not total strangers. They weren't like trying to rob me or something, but not friends or family or people I'm close to. Two acquaintances in passing who I couldn't remember. The guy who strangled me, I couldn't remember his name. He couldn't remember mine, but he's that passionate to want to strangle me in public because he's nuts. And the nigger girl who wanted to run me over, like after all the bullshit with her, just ignoring her for a month and a half, she still wants to run me down. She's giving me those death glares. I'm like, well, what the fuck? And no one seemed to give a shit. Yeah, it amazes me. So yeah, what are the odds? That's what I said after I was strangled. Then when the nigger bitch tried that, it was like, what? And even more recently, even though the tall asshole behemoth motherfucker didn't actually put his hands on me, the fact that he would threaten that so seriously in front and without any fear in front of the boss, and enough to bother everyone in that room was disturbed by what they were hearing, including the boss who blamed me. Just again, that's kind of like you're talking about the odds. These things the pattern keeps repeating. So That's how I feel. That's why I'm worried. And, this wasn't just a lightning striking once. That's what goes through my head.
I'd really like to hear another person's opinion based on your anecdotes, because I'm still at a loss as far as where to go with this.
Well, you're saying you're at a loss, but I mean, the answer might be that whole they themselves don't consciously know why they dislike us.
If that's true, then you're forever in danger.
That's why it's so depressing. It's like, how can I even function if I'm going to be forever be in danger? I'm not going to have the same opportunities that everybody else takes for granted, because that's what my life is, pretty much. That's how it feels.
Unless you get a work from home job like a lot of people get. I don't know. Still probably a lot of people still doing work from home somehow in front of a computer, whatever, and you minimize your contact with people. But that's like, what kind of life is that?
Yeah, you just said it yourself. But is that the only life I can look forward to? Yeah, I don't get it either. I don't. Yeah.
The other thing is see if you can find somebody who's really an expert in autism, and maybe they really have a knack for understanding these kind of subtle social cues, and they could say, yeah, I see it. It's obvious to me. You got this, you're doing this, you're doing this, and you're doing this. So there's probably behavioral ways in which you can eliminate it because we've identified these things. I don't see it, I don't know it, but maybe somebody out there does know it.
What I told you, like I said, I don't think such a person exists. And I gave you the example once. You're like the exorcist. I don't want some run-of-the-mill priest. I want the wise old man who's seasoned, who's done this for 30 years.
But maybe the wise old man is not the right person for this specific
and there probably isn't a right person for the first time in your career being called upon to go above and beyond.
People definitely who are more like have an expertise in autism. Or Asperger's, because let's face it, if they still use the term Asperger's, then you probably fit into some kind of Asperger's.
Yes. See, okay, maybe that's where the confusion comes in. When I tell you I'm autistic, they have rolled Asperger's into autism. But yes, I'd probably been Asperger's or PDD-NOS prior to the roll together. So you're still hung up on the old definition of autism.
There's no way you have pervasive developmental disorder.
Not otherwise specified. I thought PDD-NOS was the same as Asperger's, only if you don't check all the boxes, you have all the same problem.
Otherwise specified. I mean, to me, if it says think of the word pervasive. Mm-hmm. That means that it's probably causing some real functional problems.
Well, regardless, the point is, okay, if you don't like the word autism, I'll go back to using Asperger's. The Church of Modern Medicine, of which you're a priest, decided that...
I don't even think it's... To me, again, I don't even
Well, you just said I might have Asperger's. I may fit the mold for Asperger's, so...
Well, I'm just throwing out that.
Yeah, I probably am.
Stick with autism.
Well, Asperger's is not part of autism, so whatever you want to call it.
No, it is part of autism.
Right. And I might be
even before they changed it. It still was like kind of a high functioning autism.
Right. In fact, even the neuropsych told me before they lumped them together, she herself would sometimes get confused. She said, because I asked her, I said, before they lumped everything together, what would I be? Asperger's? She said, Asperger's or HFA, I never knew what the difference was. She always said high-functioning autism and Asperger's were very, very similar, so she actually preferred they were rolled together. So yeah, I got the same thing. Like, she couldn't tell HFA from Asperger's. They were very, very similar in diagnosis. And I'm like, okay, but... Well, you don't think I'm HFA? What's that?
Did she ever say to you that it's obvious to her that you're autistic? Did you say, "Oh, it's a no-brainer" kind of thing?
No. When I first met her, when she finally diagnosed me, I asked her. I said, "Listen, before you tested me, just knowing me, just me walking into your office, did you think there was something off or something like that?" And she was honest. She said, "Yeah, I didn't know if you were autistic for sure." She also suspected something called NVLD, nonverbal learning disorder. Have you ever heard of NVLD? It doesn't mean you don't speak. It means the problem isn't verbal. You can speak okay. It's not a verbal problem. And from what it sounds like, NVLD is the same as Asperger's, is the same as HFA. And I even said to her, they should lump that in too. Because if you're going to put Asperger's and HFA into autism, NVLD sounds like, say nonverbal as in verbal isn't the problem. She said, yes, I suspect. She said, yeah, I suspect you had something. So, but she can't say in good consciousness until she actually does the testing. So she suspected, something was different. I thought if autism, Asperger's, maybe NVLD, that's why I wanted to do the test. But yeah, she said, I understand why you came to me.
Well, she must have a sharp eye.
Well, and I asked her, I said, well, do you just diagnose everyone? Like, you just like candy? And she goes, no, there are people who come to me and they don't, I give them the honest results. I say, you're below the threshold. So she claims that we do the testing legitimately, and some people think they're this, but some people think they have this, but they turn out to have that. Other people don't have what they think they do, and vice versa. So she says, that's why we do the testing, and we do everything by the book. She swore to me, she does not, I can understand, you might think she's some fly-by-night hack who gives, diagnoses out like candy, but she said, no, everyone takes the test, and I give them an honest appraisal based on the test. So she said she suspected I had something, she didn't know what, and it turned out to be autism, not NVLD.
The only thing I was thinking, because the only thing I ever noted with you really was that when you speak, you tend to maintain I think a higher than normal volume. It's loud.
Yes.
And it's kind of pressing and intense. Now, it's possible, let's just say the liquor store guy, let's just say he has what's called a sensory integration problem, where they have trouble handling a lot of sensory stimulus at the same time. The brain doesn't integrate it well. Now, possibly your loud volume when you were talking to him, and I guess you two are fairly close together, and I don't know if you adjust your speech volume according to how close you are to another person, but maybe he found you to be like overwhelming, and that maybe triggered like, I gotta get this guy away from me, like I gotta, and then he thrust at you.
Possibly, no, but see, again, with him, I got that pit of dread feeling, and I said, why am I feeling this way? We're having a nice conversation. If he wanted to get away from me,
what was the
he would
volume
have...
of his speech? Did it seem normal? Was it quieter than normal? Do you have any memory of that?
Seemed normal, but a bit rushed. Like, oh yeah, I work over there. Oh yeah, I told him I'm working at this other grogrocery store now. Oh yeah, that's right by my house.
Kind of yeah.
To
get out of there, he was anxious.
No, he didn't strike me as anxious. He struck me as, how would I describe it? Anxious is the wrong word. Trying to keep a conversation going that should have ended. Like, I'm like, why do you keep like putting ammo into this conversation? It was a friendly conversation, but it's like, why does he keep trying to breathe life into this? It was forced, and I got that feeling of dread, but I said, no, we're having a nice conversation. We're in public. It's broad daylight, 9:30 in the morning. I'm not in any jeopardy, so I ignored that feeling, and then I made that joke to try to mitigate. Yeah, there was something was off. I felt something off, but I didn't feel he was anxious. I felt like he was trying to keep talking to me, and I'm like, what is he? I'm thinking
that could be anxiety.
Okay,
it's because he didn't know like how to. He wanted to end it. He didn't know how somehow. So he figured he'd end you.
He'd end me. Okay. Well, I remember with the nigger bitch, she was loud and obnoxious. I'd hear her screaming over the store. She would scream with those. She was loud, obnoxious, crude. And when she screamed at me a month and a half before she turned me over, she was screaming at me.
But she was autistic.
Well, no, I think she was oppositionally defiant for sure, and she might be bipolar or borderline, as you've suggested before. I don't think she's autistic. Because I don't think she was a typical, stereotypical nigger bitch, and she would be, and when she was screaming at me, I don't want to know you finding this, I can't comment. I just stared at her, because I grew up with a father who was always young and screaming, and I guess I didn't respond the way others might. I just sort of looked at her like, huh? And I guess I had to be destroyed. But even though I said, okay, this is a lose-lose. I'm white, she's black, I'm male, she's female. I was like damn near 40 at the time. She was in her early 20s. I'm like, you know what? I got to back off because this is going to several people at that job had been Me Too'd. Guys have been fired for. So I said, let me not get a racial or sexual thing. So I kept my distance. She would still give me death glares. Like, I don't think it was plotted to that time on that day, but I think it was a crime of opportunity. She wanted to eliminate me. Even though I stopped talking to her for 6 weeks, she still, I showed that motherfucking cracker. It was like, I leave you alone. Fine. It's not going to work out between the two of us. I'll ignore you. And there was still this, I'm going to fucking kill you. And she took her chance that night. I thought it was a drunk driver at first. I'm like, who's this maniac? And it was her. Yeah. No, I wouldn't guess her to be autistic. Nothing about her struck, and I'm not trying to say I'm the expert on who is and isn't. Nothing about her behavior struck me as autistic. If anything, because you've said before, you think these people sound what you said to you. I know you don't know them. You've never met them. Anecdotally, they sounded, did you say borderline or bipolar? What was the term you used? Something with a B.
Probably borderline.
Borderline? Yeah. And I pushed them over their borderline somehow, but that wasn't my intention. And the response was crazy.
Well, they have, they use the term emotional dysregulation. They have trouble controlling.
Right, and I've said before, these people, my theory, these people are functionally crazy. They can follow a script and get along with the normies, the normal people. I come along and they can sense something's off. They don't know what, but it does not compute. All that keeps them together is if they follow the script. Any slight deviation i.e. Asperger's, autism, throws them off to the point of that sort of crazy response. They're functionally crazy. They don't attack people like you because you're playing by the rules that they can kind of keep themselves together. I put a little crack and they go nuts. That's my theory. But I don't know. And how many times is it going to keep happening to me in life? Right.
Do you have any theories, if you're right, and if this other person you read about is right as far as the subliminal stuff, do you have any theories as to what you might be giving off? Like what kind of nonverbal cues are you sending out? Any awareness, do you think?
Well, I think part of that, we can speculate. I think part of that, like they said in the right, it's like if you knew about it, you would try not to do it, but it's so subtle, it's so subconscious.
Well, maybe it's not something you really focused on and tried to think about.
Well,
maybe if you do, maybe you could.
It's a good question.
Do you think the volume, when you talk, do you think your volume is normal? Or do you think it's a little louder than normal?
It varies. There are times I am louder than normal, for sure. People have pointed out you're being so loud. But then again, I grew up in a house with a father. That might be nurture. My father was always screaming. To get a word in edgewise, I'd have to raise my voice. So I took to... Again, what's nature, what's nurture? Like the two aren't mutually exclusive. What's autism? What's growing up in a nut house? Because you've met my father once.
We don't have to explain it. We're just trying to observe it. So we just
okay. What have you observed? I'm going to think about it because you mentioned others have mentioned my tone. Right.
Volume. Your volume, is probably in terms of decibels is I think higher than like the average person.
Okay.
The normal conversational language.
Right. I probably speak very rapidly, but I'm always afraid I get to point out because no one's going to hear it. I repeat myself quite a bit because I'm afraid people don't follow, and oftentimes they don't. When I've explained it for the 10th time, they finally get it. Oh, why'd you repeat that? I know I get duh. I repeat tone, volume. It's possible the eye blinking. Sometimes I get the goop in my eye. I might blink my eye too much. I'm trying to think. Any other? I like to smell my fingers. I used to bite my nails, and I gave up biting my nails. But every time I put my hand to my mouth, I would turn like this, almost like stop. And I'll do this without even thinking about it. Just not really smelling the fingers. I'm just trying not to bite my nails, which I did all throughout my childhood. There might be a little subtle, I'm trying to think what else. What have you noticed?
Again, you're repeating yourself. I told you what I noticed was the voice.
You mentioned the voice. What else? You asked what else?
Well, they use that term, psychology or psychiatry, pressured speech.
Yes.
There's this, it comes out forcefully or with a sense of urgency, even when it's probably not necessary at all. But it's like you said, you just want to get you want to be heard. You want to get it out fast,
right?
Because somehow you'll lose your opportunity or something,
right?
So, yeah. So that's I don't know. Other than that, it's not like you have like a weird tick, or something like like a weird eye blink.
Well, this goes back. I know you're uncomfortable with this.
Click or something.
Well, I might sometimes. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe I can keep it together for 45 minutes, but. This is what I've mentioned to you before. If you don't feel comfortable, I would like to meet you in the flesh.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Like I said, not every time, because I said, even though you've been seeing me for a few years and it's all been virtual, I've told you this before, maybe you'll pick up in the moment, you won't think of it. Afterwards, you'll go to bed that night, you'll think, wait, he did something kind of weird here. So I would like to meet you in the flesh one of these days, just once.
I know what's going to happen. You're going to go into the office and you're going to give me the rundown of your opinion of my office. You can say, oh, you got that there. That's interesting. Oh, that sofa's too soft.
It's fascinating you say that, because what you described could be one of my other flaws or one of my tics I'm unaware of. They say that those with autism tend to do that. They tend to talk more about lists and more matter-of-factually. So what you just described as a potential thing I do, it sounds like, But,
well, for one thing, you're nosy. And
nosy.
Curious.
No, see, I don't ask you personal questions like you and your wife and what time do you take a dump. When a question seems relevant, and you all of a sudden act as if it's like the most, how dare I ask that? It's a little insulting. I've told you that before. You took what was a fairly harmless, benign, pertinent question, acted like, how dare you ask that? My boundary. And that really bugged me, as you know. So.
No, I think the key point was when I said, I find it a boundary violation, you would persist.
Because your boundary violation violated my boundary. So I felt like, if I asked you, I said, tell me about your last bowel movement, out of the blue, your bowel movement or this consistency. And you said, well, I'm not telling you that. That would be perfectly okay. I would never ask something like that.
Yeah, but you're not getting it. You're only looking at your criteria. You're ignoring my criteria.
Which makes me think you're doing something deceptive. And why is he being so secretive about this? Yeah, it makes me what?
Yeah, I know.
Which crosses my boundary. Because I feel like someone's being deceptive.
I know, because your mother was deceptive. I know, or is deceptive. So it probably triggers something.
Yes, it's all Freudian. Goes back to my mother. But no, it
always goes back to the mother. By the way, did anything happen with the mother recently? Or?
No, we'll probably have to call her on Friday. We keep pushing her off. My brother's off Friday. We should probably get in contact with her and figure something out. So we'll have to get back in touch with her Friday. We have a session this Friday, but it doesn't matter. My brother might join me. He's off Friday. Maybe we have. When's our next session? It's
2:00.
Yeah, that's fine because I'll probably call her that afternoon, like 3:30. Okay, so maybe my brother will join us. Maybe not. He's off on Friday. We'll ask him. But okay, we got 5 minutes here, or what do we?
I'm thinking of another client of mine. Again, I have to be very careful here, but
yeah, I'm not. Again, that's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm not asking any personal questions about your clients. I'm asking for anecdotal. But okay, I'd like to hear.
I'm just talking about a mannerism. Okay. He has this mannerism where while we're talking, he'll take his hand, right, and it's in the camera, so I can see, and he'll kind of like crunch it up in a peculiar way, not a fist. It's like he has long fingers, and he kind of like, and he'll just stare at his hands. Like he'll just stare at his hands while, and then he'll stop talking and just stare at the hand. Now that I find, I don't know what that is, but I find that a little peculiar. Like I don't notice that, with you really.
Right. Anything that strikes you as peculiar during the 45 minutes we're talking. But let me ask you this, without giving away too much: is he diagnosed with autism or something? Is there anything that
I have not diagnosed him with autism, but I feel it's a little autistic-like.
Okay,
but I'm not ready to diagnose him with autism.
That's not what I'm asking. He doesn't have an outside diagnosis like I do. He doesn't have.
As far as I know, he does not.
Then my question to you would be this: not getting too personal. Have you ever pointed this out? Have you ever said, "Hey, listen"?
No, I haven't.
Don't you think it would be beneficial to say, "Hey," or do you think you'd be insulted if you said, "Hey, as your shrink, I've noticed." Cross his boundary. Tell him.
There might be a right time or place for that, but I don't feel that it's necessary at this point. So I just let it go. I kind of just, I've noted it, but
I've told you, don't be bashful with me. If there's something you note, I might disagree with you, but you can by all means point it out. If there's anything else you've noted before that you've never shared with me, feel free. I won't feel violated. In fact, I'd rather you tell me the truth than keep it from me.
The finger smelling thing I've noticed,
yes.
I find it to be a little off-putting. There's something about that.
Okay, you should have mentioned that. Yeah, it's either, if I'm not doing that, I'll be biting.
The biting, I don't never really noticed you biting your
because I told you, you've never seen me bite my nails because every time I want to bite my nails, I go like this.
Oh, yeah.
This is my, so I replaced one bad habit with another. This, which you've noticed, this I'm aware of. This is basically I want to bring my hand to my face. I want to bite the nails. No, stop. Yes, I've explained this to you. So you've noticed
your teeth. It's hard.
Right. Yes, it's bad for your teeth and nails. So I
used to bite my fingernails when I was a kid too. My father said, "Stop it."
Yeah.
I stopped it after that, but it was really not so much because he said stop, because I realized like I was wearing down my teeth, and so just that thought, like, ugh, I don't want to damage. That's enough to deter me. I don't do that anymore.
So you've noticed
I would
this.
never do it now. I have no desire anymore.
So you've noticed this, and you found it off-putting. You never mentioned it. Why didn't you say something? You were hoping to see if I'd be conscious of it, or you just didn't want to insult me, or what?
I just feel like I have bigger fish to fry here. Like it just didn't seem like a big enough deal to like that would be like at the bottom of the list of things to discuss to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just never thought that was.
But you don't just find it weird; you find it off-putting.
I don't think it's certainly going to cause somebody to have homicidal tendencies against you. Let's put it that way.
But you find it off-putting, is what you're saying?
A little.
I see. Okay.
Now you'll never do it again because
never because you think it's off-putting.
Because he's doing it.
Right. No, see, well, that's part of my, what did you say? Not oppositional defiance, counterphobia. Like, well, screw you.
No, it's like if somebody put their finger in their armpit and then smelled their finger after. I mean, like, you don't want to see that. It's like certain things.
Well, I try not to scratch myself on camera down there. So I hope I haven't done that before. Maybe I have and I don't realize.
No, I think I might have said something that would have been a bit much.
No, but I guess this goes back to what I want to say. Well, we have a few minutes here. Like, let's say I see you have a boss, right? And I notice that the boss, or like I said with the teachers, the boss isn't treating us equally. He's giving kid gloves with the guy who's being an asshole, but is overly harsh on me for something minor. Because of that starts out because of the autism, because as that person was saying on the internet, they see us as different. So we'll let him get away with being late, but this guy, he's late one more time, you're fired. So there's already that, and that breeds resentment, and that breeds well, fuck you, because I see you're a fucking hypocrite, because you don't care when he does it, you pat him on the back, but you're gonna give me the opposite. Not only are you easy on him, it's not just that you're easy on him and neutral with me, you're easy on him and you're like overly hostile. It's like the scale is totally off balance, and it pisses me off and it breeds a resentment, which makes me say I'm going to stick it back to you because do you not see your own hypocrisy, you motherfucker? So I do think part of my opposition defiance comes from the autism. It goes back to the autism and people treating me unfairly because they're picking up on something that they themselves can't explain, which in turn says, hey, wait, this isn't right because I see how you're treating him versus me and how off kilter it is. So, that is, I think, which leads me to start questioning and criticizing and throwing it back at them. And they can't handle it, of course, because, they've never been questioned before. They expect me to be a good bitch, but everybody else is allowed to be late, but that kind of thing. So that's where my defiance comes from, in part. You're also talking about my childhood, my father, the nut house I grew up in. But I think part of it is I'm not just being defiant for the sake of being defiant. I'm being defiant because I'm being treated unfairly. And I know the boss, if you were treating everyone that way, I'd say, okay, that guy's an asshole. That's just how he is. But when he's treating some better than others and I'm on the bottom of the barrel, maybe it's like, hey, what did I do wrong? Because nothing I do or don't do is going to change his opinion. He's going to treat me like that anyway. So I might as well, do you understand what I'm saying? Does it kind of make sense, sir?
Yeah, I understand. But I think your oppositionalism, started even before you were aware he didn't like you.
No. Well, my oppositional comes out in response to not being treated correctly or fairly or rightly, which I think I must have noticed something in his behavior that would make me start getting oppositionally defiant towards him.
Well, is there something to be learned there that that?
Well, it's like you suggested.
Instead of but your solution is to throw gasoline on the fire. If he doesn't like you, you're going to make him like you even more, dislike you even more, rather than say, is there a way I can
I guess I don't run out of time. I guess the idea is, well, if you're going to treat me like crap, I'll throw it back at you. You can feel what it's like, asshole. Now you can be empathetic.
That's primitive thinking. That's like how a child would think.
Good, then I'm a child.
Or a very ignorant person.
Well, I'm very
Smart
ignorant.
for that.
I'm too smart for that. Okay.
That's where you need to fix that. You don't go that route. No. You try to outsmart them if that's the way you want to look at it and say, no, I'll be Christian. You know what I mean? I'll turn the other cheek.
I want to be Jewish instead, but okay. No,
Jewish? No, you give them the finger.
I should be. I was told you I should be an honorary Jew. I look like a background kike. But the point is, two questions real quick. First,
your nose isn't big enough.
Nose, exactly. I got to get the nose job. But do you find my vaping off-putting? You've never said anything about that. Do you find my vaping off-putting? Well, I wouldn't do it in person in your office.
No. I wouldn't allow it in the office. But I don't like seeing people doing things that are obviously unhealthy like that. It's not so much, look, my father used to smoke a cigar, but the vaping and a pipe actually, and an occasional cigarette. But anyway, it's just bad for you.
Okay. All right. There's one other thing real quick. You had said to me once, I don't remember this, a few sessions back, you said, well, maybe now in the future, if you start a job and you feel that things aren't going well with the boss, you should just quit. So basically you're telling me I'm never going to have that normal life. I got to just sort of bounce from job to job. If I feel things are going wrong, have a backup job in my sleeves. I think you said that maybe from the future, instead of building things up, just if the boss seems antagonistic and you can't deal with it, just have another. Is that what you recommend? Or
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I'm trying to think if I said that, what was my reasoning? Was it simply just to escape? I think it was maybe because, and here I'm going to blame you, because you would find a way to make it go downhill from there. Because you would start retaliating.
Throwing fuel on the fire, right. Right.
So that might have been the reason, rather than just, if it's going to go down that route, just get the hell out of there already, if that's the way you're going to deal with it. If you could find a better way to deal with it, that would be, then I'd say don't quit. Use it as actually a laboratory for trying to find a way of turning the boss around a little bit. Doesn't have to mean you have to, kiss his ass, but you don't have to also get, go the other way and get super antagonist.
Okay. I'll see what I can make no promises, but I'll see what I can do. But
All right. But in the meantime, you've not made any moves towards anything.
Well, my unemployment's going to run out in April, so I'm going to have to get a job regardless. So things are going to change very quickly. They have to. Weather's getting warmer. We got to probably get out of this house, find some place to live. I'm going to have to go back to work in a few weeks, so I'm almost out of unemployment. So, yeah.
And just to finish, what's the deal with the hernia thing?
Still no, basically, long story short, everyone I see, the surgeon sent me off to the gastroenterologist, sent me off to the urologist. They all say, we think you pulled a muscle, but go see someone else. I had that ultrasound of my gallbladder. The gastroenterologist said your gallbladder's fine. And then I'm supposed to go for a kidney CAT scan in early April because that's the earliest they had. But even the urologist doesn't really think it's kidney stone. So maybe I just pulled the muscle. And if that's the case, that's fine. But no one give me a definitive answer. Everyone just wants to pat. We don't think it's this or it's not that, but we don't know what it is. So I feel okay today. I still have some, they gave me like 30 days of pills, and I take my pill every day, my prescription grade ibuprofen, and I think it helps. But every now and then when I'm sitting there, I feel the pain again. So I don't know if it's gone or if the pills are just masking it. But I'm going to go for a kidney stone test. And
don't stop the pills and see what happens.
Stop it and see what happens?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to run out of him anyway. I plan to go back to the regular doctor at some point and talk to him and say, listen, you said it was a hernia, but the surgeon said it wasn't, and they said it wasn't my gallbladder, now if it's kidney stones or not. So I can ask for more pills, but they'll be done within another week or so. I'm almost out of pills. So whether I stop them or...
Well, is the pain like to the point where, you're bent over?
No, right now I don't feel anything. It's occasionally, after the pill starts to wear off, I'll start to feel the pain flaring up. Not
on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you say it
when
is?
it flares up? 6 or 7.
Well, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, but then right now I feel like 0, maybe a 1 if
And
I
is it
cough.
related to body movement, or is it station? It doesn't matter if you're stationary; it still hurts.
The last time I felt it, I was
The
actually...
pulled muscle would more be related to movement
Well,
rather than just sitting there. Then it probably wouldn't hurt.
No, I was watching TV. I was eating a salad. I was trying to eat healthy. I was eating a salad. And I laid back. I moved to lay back, and I started to feel it again in the back. So I guess slight movements, or just sort of whenever it feels like coming and going. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, you'll see what the CAT scan says. Probably nothing. All right. I'll see you Friday.
Friday at 2 o'clock.
On the hour.
On the hour. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So long.
Take care, Doc.
You're not sincere now.
I am
That's not
sincere. What do you mean? Okay. Not sincere. We're going to see you on Friday. It's going to be fun.
All right. I'll see you. Bye.
See you. Bye.